like to call to order this November the 14th Fort Mill Town Council regular meeting. Thank you all for joining us. If you would, as we have a capacity crowd tonight, happy to see each of you, cell devices, computers, whatever you have, please put it on silent so that we can give you our full attention and you ours. So everybody got a seat and okay? Good. All right. We will stand for our Pledge of Allegiance, then an invocation, please. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Heavenly Father, in this time of Thanksgiving, we'd like to give thanks to our veterans, to our staff and crews, to our emergency responders, to our community, to our family and friends. Help us to do the work that you have placed before us in a fair and just manner. In his name we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you. Council members, you have received the minutes of the October 24th Town Council meeting. Are there any changes, deletions, or additions?
Hearing none, I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a couple of seconds. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you so much. Public comment section. Pursuant to Section 2-46 of the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Fort Mill, any citizen of the town may appear before council for the purpose of providing public comments on any municipal matter except personnel matters. Those who wish to speak must sign in outside of council chambers prior to the start of the meeting. Citizens will be given 3 minutes each to speak. With a crowd this size, I would also ask of you, if everybody signed in, and you're all going to say the same thing, kind of work that out with you, okay? Do I have a sign-in sheet, please?
Mayor, we do not have anyone signed up for public comment.
Okay, that's great. Presentations. First presentation of order will be the employee of the quarter, Davy Broom.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe a couple of weeks ago I did this up there, but because of microphone issues, I'm going to move over to the podium and do
right
this.
ahead.
And I would like Summer Bass to join me if she would. We'll all be on the camera at the same time. So, Mayor and members of council, again, this is one of my favorite portions of a town council meeting. It's the awarding of the employee of a quarter. I'd like to give a little background on that. Every quarter we have nominations that are received from staff. There is a committee made up of representatives from each department which reviews and votes on the nominees. I will say I have no part or role in this program outside of presenting the award and thanking our employee for winning and being nominated for this what we consider a prestigious award. The employee of the quarter receives recognition by giving of a framed certificate, a recognition on the board displayed in the lobby at Town Hall, and also a $100 gift certificate. For this quarter, Summer Bass, our business office manager, has been selected as our employee of the quarter. I'd like to provide a little information on Summer. She's been employed with the town since January of 2018, so she has nearly 5 years of service with the town. She started off in the as an administrative assistant for the Public Works and Utilities Department. After serving some time there, she was hired in the Finance Department as an accountant and served a few years in that role, and most recently was hired for our business office manager position. Summer has served each role with an abundance of enthusiasm and professionalism. She volunteers to serve on staff committees. She volunteers her time to assist with town events, She had extensive efforts during the South Carolina Strawberry Festival over the years. She even volunteers with the town's Parks and Recreation Department as a coach or serves various roles on her children's athletic teams. I don't know how she has the energy to do it all. I will say that she received 3 separate nominations in this one quarter. And instead of reading each nomination, I'll provide some excerpts from them. Summer always goes above and beyond. Comes in early, stays late, works some weekends, takes work home when needed. She is smart, kind, and thorough. She takes pride in her work. She always has great ideas on how to improve and do better. She never complains, always here to help when needed. She is very nice to everyone. She listens to what people have to say. She was dedicated in learning ExecuTime, which is one of our new technologies. She took on a challenge as a business office manager, and from what I see and hear, is doing a great job. Her staff loves her. Employees and customers are happy. I think that's a pretty good.
That's music.
It is. It's very impressive. When I started reading through these nominations, that's what I read is what I know of Summer in my history with her. I have no part of this program except to support it and to award the certificate and information to the award winner. But I like to toot my own horn when I have a chance. And Summer was one of my last hires as a public works director. I've witnessed her growth as a professional and a dedicated teammate. I'm very proud that she has dedicated her skills to the town of Fort Mill. We are very blessed to have her as a teammate. And before we step up and take the photos and all of that, I do want to share a little bit of excellent news about Summer over the past year. Summer received her Bachelor of Science in Public Administration with an emphasis on government in May of this year from Liberty University. So she has, with all the energy I spoke of before, she had the energy to go get her degree at night over the last 4 years. And so with that, we are very blessed to have her as a teammate, and I'm certainly proud of everything that she does. With that, Summer, here is your Employee of the Quarter award, and if you would, we can step up here and take a photo.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
It seems summer's an anomaly in the world of employment these days. Thank you so much for working with us. Thank you, Summer.
Stay warm.
All righty. Presentation number 2, Fort Mill Christmas Village and Tree Lighting, Jacana Hester.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
So I get to present the fun stuff too, along with Davey. So on Thursday, December the 1st, we will be having our Fort Mill Christmas Village and lighting of the tree at the Fort Mill Amphitheater at Water Elijah Park. And then the event will feature food, drink, shopping with our vendors, trackless trains, and kids' activities from 5 to 8:30 p.m. From 5 to 6 and 6:45 to 8:30, we have a special treat this year. We're going to have Visit with Santa and the North Pole Adventure that will be set up near our new 50-foot tree that we just put in. And then on the amphitheater stage at 5:30, we will have the First Baptist Church Handbell Choir, followed by our tree lighting ceremony. And then we'll have local elementary schools and dance groups that will be performing until 8:30 p.m. And that's a few pictures from last year. And this is a layout of the park for the evening with our food trucks, our vendors, and our trackless trains will be set up on Ardrey Street. So we do have just a small road closure for that evening. For this, we'll be closing off from Ardrey just above North White there, just so our vendors can load in from that area. And then it will extend just below where we enter the amphitheater lot, and that will be from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then I had to throw in some pictures of Public Works putting up our new 50-foot tree. We're so excited for that. They've done an amazing job. They've been working for the last few weeks getting everything ready. Every time I see somebody around downtown, they're like, they're already putting up Christmas lights. And I'm like, yes, we have to start very early. So we thank them for their hard work. And then, of course, because we do have our food trucks, we do not allow any outside food or drink, and no coolers are allowed at the event. Parking for the event is on Calhoun Street Park, Looms Way, Veterans Park, and then for our handicap parking, we will have that behind the amphitheater lot. We'll be making extra spots in the lot for that purpose. And we do ask the public to not park along the roadways. We are still accepting vendor applications through this Wednesday at 5 p.m. And you can get those at our town website, fortmillsc.gov, or email me at jhester@fortmillsc.gov, and I can send you one.
Would you like to just move right on into the annual Christmas parade
Sure.
presentation
Sure.
too?
Yes, and this year we're very excited. This is our 75th annual Fort Mill Christmas Parade. It's going to be on Saturday, December the 3rd at 11 a.m. And this year's Grand Marshal is the George Fish School. And the Grand Marshals will include representatives from the school. That includes graduates, partial attendees who integrated into Carothers, A.O. Jones, and Fort Mill High School, along with faculty and administrators. And these representatives will be riding in the parade, and we will honor them with the Grand Marshal reception prior to the parade. And this is our typical layout for our parade. Our route begins on Tom Hall and Unity, and then it travels through Main Street and our beautiful historic downtown Fort Mill, and it takes a right on North White, and then it exits at Walter Elijah Park. And then we have our primary and secondary street closures. Of course, the primary closures are Tom Hall, Main, and North White. And then for the secondary street closures, that's mainly for the parade staging areas from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. And this is just some fun pictures from last year. Last year's parade, we had a beautiful day and about 100 entries. And we are still accepting applications for this until Wednesday at 5 p.m. And as always, our parade features local schools, businesses, Queens, Scouts, organizations, churches, and of course Santa and Mrs. Claus, and lots more. And you can get our applications at fortmillsc.gov, or again, just email me, and I will send you one.
Any questions for Jacana?
So, Jacana, for the tree lighting, we didn't specify whether it's a pet-friendly event or not. I know sometimes when we have a lot of children, and a lot of other motorized vehicles and so forth, we try to discourage the pets.
We do ask people not to bring their pets. And
Okay.
we will be promoting that as well.
Okay. All right. And I've heard good things about the tree lighting at the amphitheater, how people are excited about the opportunity to be able to spread out but have some room to move, and especially the transitioning of the bands or the music going on the stage, to be able to get a little bit closer and seeing. I think this will really highlight the amphitheater and what that area brings for our community. So I'm
Yes.
excited about that.
Yeah, it will be a little bit better staging area for all the schools and dance groups.
Hopefully
That will be-
acoustics for everybody to hear
Yeah.
them better too. So. Awesome.
I think too, it's important to note that while this particular tree lighting ceremony is historic, and it has always been held on Main Street, we do not want to take away from the beauty and the camaraderie of Main Street. So we have, as a council, looked at this because we had thousands of people in a very tight space for the last several years, actually, since COVID in particular. More people wanted to get out. But I do believe that council's just short of being able to say that we haven't voted on it, but we want to offer to keep Main Street closed down after the parade so that our Main Street businesses might be able to do something special after the Christmas parade to entertain and to have the folks show up on Main Street that perhaps would have come in a different and a perhaps better way, so that they can move around. You know, the last tree lighting, we were packed. We couldn't move. It was incredibly tight. So we do want to keep the history and the beauty of the event and our businesses on Main Street a part of that. So just keep in mind, safety has to be first for us.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Jacana.
Thank you.
All right, old business item number 1, resolution for street acceptance for Oakland Point, Penelope Karagunis. Hi, Penelope.
Hi, good evening. Over the summer, the reason why this is old business, over the summer we had brought the Oakland Point subdivision for street acceptance, and we did not have the actual non-maintenance agreement recorded. And so Chris Rabel from Lennar was able to get the necessary signatures and a process, and here we are. It's November, and we finally have the document. So this is why it was on old business. The roads have been built. It's ready to be accepted by the town of Fort Mill.
Great. Do we have any questions?
And all the construction's complete, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Hearing no questions, I'll call for a motion on old business item number 1.
I'll make a motion to approve all business item number 1.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve old business item number 1. Everyone that agrees, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. New business item number 1, first reading. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Fort Mill, Chapter 6, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 2, Technical Codes, Section 6-26, Adoption of Standard Codes, so as to adopt the most up-to-date versions of the following codes, including all South Carolina modifications, the International Building Code, International Residential Code, International Existing Building Code, International Fire Code, International Plumbing Code, International Mechanical Code, International Fuel Gas Code, and yes, I have to read all this, I'm sorry, International Energy Conservation Code, National Electrical Code, International Property Maintenance Code, International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, and International Performance Code for Buildings and Facilities. Our expert is Chris Pettit.
Mayor, as long as it took you to read that, I'll be quite short. This is the state-required adoption of the 2021 building codes. Every 3 years, the state goes through a new code adoption. This is our code adoption for the 2021 codes. The codes would be effective January 1st of 2023. Any building that's currently ongoing would be grandfathered in. However, anything that is permitted starting January 1st, 2023 would go under these new codes, which are called the 2021 codes. These, as I mentioned, this is required by the state of South Carolina. These are the South Carolina modified codes of the International Building Codes. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any notable big changes?
There's quite a few changes. I certainly couldn't quote them to you.
So I just didn't know if there was anything glaring that really stood out.
No, nothing glaring that I'm aware of.
And Mr. Pettit said the state has already adopted these codes.
The state adopts the codes. The South Carolina Building Codes Council adopts the codes. They basically take the International Building Code and adopt state level modifications. So they've taken the International Code, they modified it based off the state, and then we adopt the state modified versions.
Yeah, because I thought it was interesting. They're called international, although the electrical code is national. So that the state has already made, because the red line only affects the changes for the town of Fort Mill, but we're adopting the state code, not necessarily the international code.
Correct. It is, and
So
it's
that
very
one.
confusing with wording. It is the international code, but the state modifies it. We go in and do some local modifications as well, just to throw our name in the blanks. But there are things like the international code requires all residential houses to be sprinkled like a commercial structure. South Carolina says no, we don't want that, so South Carolina modifies it and takes that out. So there are modifications from the international code. That's what the South Carolina Building Code Council does, and we adopt that version.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear because we would want to make sure we adopt the appropriate South Carolina code, not the international code.
Correct.
Anybody else? Hearing none, I need a motion on new business item.
Accept new business item number 1.
Approve. Okay, and I have a motion to approve new business item number 1. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. New business item number 2, consideration to grant sewer easement for York County Utilities. Chris, once again, you're in the spotlight.
Mayor, several months ago, staff came to you. York County is working on a project that's extending a new 24-inch sewer force main, or excuse me, a 30-inch sewer force main from north of Kingsley going south to the wastewater treatment plant at Rock Hill. Several portions of that cross town of Fort Mill property, and this is one of those instances where it crosses the property that was donated to the town through the Spratt Family Development Agreement just south of the wastewater treatment plant. So this request is to approve the town manager to sign and negotiate the easement agreement with York County to allow that force main to go across town property. There is compensation for the easement, and it is a equal compensation per linear foot that was given for the last easement.
Okay. Any questions?
And with this easement, I know at one point we had talked about being able to use the clearing for trails and so forth. Can you elaborate a little bit more on our notes and that
We have
information?
included language within the easement that allows us to maximize our use of the easement so long as it doesn't prohibit the county's use of it for the sewer force main. So anything from trails to some levels of parking and things of that nature. We're still allowed to utilize it. It's our property. It's simply their easement to have utilities underground. So so long as what we're doing on top of the ground doesn't prohibit their use under the ground, we're able to utilize it. So.
Awesome. And what will the approval process be for that? So if we wanted to put parking on top of that, do we need to get it requested by them, or is that already spelled out in the agreement, the process?
I don't believe it requires that we go through them, but certainly for informational purposes, we'll keep them in the loop of everything that we're doing.
Okay.
I don't believe it requires it. I think it spells it out what we're allowed and not allowed to do.
Okay.
I think once our trail program is up and running, we'll have a better idea of what that land use might look like. I think what's really important for everyone to hear is that because these are infrastructure upgrades, that everyone talks about infrastructure and are we keeping up. These are infrastructure upgrades by an entity that if they so chose, they could condemn the property to run the lines to serve the whole. So in this case, I'm very pleased that we negotiated both use of the property and a price payment that would come in for us instead of waiting for that property to be condemned. So I'm grateful for the hard work of staff and for the thoughtfulness of council in looking at how to make this good for Fort Mill.
Yeah, it's a win-win, I think, at Fort Mill, if we get the trail access and as opposed to just being forced upon the sewer line easement. So, Mr. Pitt, how wide is the easement for that?
I believe it is a. David, do you know off the top of your head?
I was thinking it was a 30-foot easement, but I could be.
Permanent easement probably is 30.
Okay. I just didn't see it in the document. I didn't see it listed.
Thank you, Barry.
There's going to be a temporary construction easement, which is not.
The permanent will be 30.
I don't know that, but it should be.
I've got it right here. It's the permanent 30, proposed 20 temporary constructions for a total of, so permanently 30, or excuse me, permanently 30, temporarily 50.
Got it.
And then the trail, so the trail that we've done, the agreement with will be 30.
The ability for us to come and put a trail on top of it, it would be at our discretion. They are taking the property, and when they come through, they are leveling it, doing the best they can to set us up in the future for any sort of trail that we may propose. They are not providing a trail. They are essentially, they're doing the initial due diligence to do the clearing, to do the leveling, to do the grading, and it is value added to us for us to put a trail on it at a later date. But they are not installing the trail.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
They're paying us to grade it for us, so it works out well.
Exactly.
It's also worth a shameless plug for Penelope and her survey she currently has out for trails. Hate to kind of interrupt this one with the other, but Penelope, you want to be a quick 30 seconds on what that survey is, just because we've got a really good audience, or hate to put you on the spot.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
I think what, in Penelope, if you'd like to speak, or at least correct me as I go, I sit on that same committee, and there is a survey that's available to everyone. You can go on the town website and acquire a survey, and it will ask you questions about how often do you use a trail? Do you know where the trails are? What would you like to see? What do you think is missing? There are a ton of questions that will help us determine what type of trail will best fit our community in the area that it's run through. So the general idea is to get all of the spurs collected and get the ability to walk from the North Carolina line someday, probably not in my lifetime, but all the way down to the coast. So it's a huge project with a multitude of experienced and brilliant trail developers. We're partnered with the Ann Close Springs Greenway. We're partnered with the Nation Ford Land Trust. I can't begin to tell you how exciting it is to sit and listen to these folks talk about the benefits that will bring to Fort Mill. So very excited about it, and love the partnershiping that we're able to do and bring more for the town of Fort Mill.
Yeah, and just to kind of plug, that's also planning, so we're not responding. A lot of people are like, we're trying to be planning forethought of what areas need to be planned, what green space needs to be reserved, and all that.
It
So,
hasn't been laid out at all. We're gathering information at this point in time.
yeah.
So please to Lisa's point, please fill out the survey. It helps. Okay?
That part of it already.
All right, back to new business item number 2. Any further questions on the sewer easement grant?
I make a motion, we approve new business item number 2.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. Thank you. New business item number 3, public hearing and first reading. An ordinance annexing York County tax map numbers 704-00-00002 and 705-00-00012, located at the intersection of J.W. Wilson Road and 537 Canyon Trail, with approximately plus or minus 40.16 acres. Penelope is our subject matter expert, but we're going to enter into the public hearing first. So at this point in time, we're going to move into a public hearing. I knew I saw people signing a piece of paper somewhere. All right. So we will look for Chris Robusto from 517 Sutton Road, Fort Mill. Hi, Chris.
Hello, Mayor. Hello, Council. My name is Chris Robusto. I live on Sutton Road here in Fort Mill. I work for Fielding Homes. We're the developers of Mason's Bend over on Sutton Road. That subdivision is over there. We also are working on a new project here that's called Avery at Springfield Parkway and Highway 160. We've got an age-restricted neighborhood that we're working through Penelope's department on getting permits on. But what we've got before you today, I think Penelope sent you kind of some notes related to what we're doing. Off of White's Road, there's a road called J.W. Wilson Road, and the sellers, the landowners, are here today in the audience with us. But we're proposing to do on the 40 acres. We're proposing to do 80 single-family lots, a minimum of 10,000 square feet. We would be bringing sewer from down where the new Banks athletic fields are. Water would loop down J.W. Wilson back into the Whitestone subdivision that sits right below us. We've worked with staff and for about 18 months now to get us to this point. We have an area that's right adjacent to the Banks Road Park that we've proposed to dedicate to the town. It would be an additional element that could be for the Banks Road Park that's there. We've proposed a dog park or a splash park that is there that we would dedicate and build and give to the town. The roads in the subdivision would be private roads, so Fort Mill would not have to take the responsibility of the ownership of the roads. We understand that that was a concern of councils during this process. We are at basically 2 units per acre is what our proposed density is. The Waterside project that sits right below us, their lots are 5,000 square feet and ours are 10,000, so we're twice the size of the adjacent neighboring subdivision. There is a neighborhood right on J.W. Wilson that comes to us called Pecan Ridge. Those are 5,600 square feet, so we're about 80% bigger than the lots that are proposed there. So we heard early on that obviously residential was going to take a lot of lifting, heavy lifting to do, which is why we've been working on this process for quite a long time now to even get before y'all to present. One of the big things that we're doing is J.W. Wilson Road now turns into basically a gravel road. And there's a white split rail fence that runs down through there. We've worked with the county now for over a year to come up with the road cross section that they have approved, basically to extend a paved road from where the pavement ends now at Waterside up until about halfway down that white split rail fence. And then we'll be taking a left-hand turn into our property. So in the site plan that you're showing, we propose a new road coming across, and that road is crossing Darren Wilson's property. Darren is the principal at Catawba Ridge. So we've been working with, there's lots of Wilsons that are in the audience and that are all over in that area, and we've been working with them to try to get this right of way put into place and a road to construct to get back to the 40 acres, and we've been able to do that. Quite a lot of work went into getting it to that point. We also heard that there may be some resistance in tying into Waterside on the bottom side of the project. There's a road called Trentwood. We're proposed to do just an emergency access gate where fire and police would have access to get through the gate, but our primary entrance and only public entrance would be off of J.W. Wilson through our project. We've performed a TIA for the project. It's been approved. We've also done the TMA, which is us basically agreeing to do all of the things the TIA said we would do. And one of those things is we're going to have sidewalk connectivity from the new Banks Road Park. There'll be sidewalk all the way through our subdivision, down J.W. Wilson, and then those that may know is the town was granted a grant to run sidewalk up Whites Road. So you'll be able to take sidewalk basically from middle, high school, and elementary all the way through our project back down to the Banks athletic fields without having to go circuitously through kind of the Waterside subdivision through there. So we're going to be a pretty direct route as far as getting pedestrians and people walking down through there. So we do think there's some benefits to the town. I've kind of highlighted a few of those. We've got we've got over 6 acres of open space, and we've got an existing pond that will stay there. I've contacted the Waterside HOA. I think they were in board elections in the month of November. They asked us to get back with them once they get their new elected members into place. But again, we're proposing to donate $100,000 worth of park and land to the town and create some connectivity. We do think we're a good, from the Planning Commission meeting that we went through, lot size was a concern. I think that we're a good transition from The smaller lots that are in Waterside and Pecan Ridge were at 10,000 square foot, so we're 75-foot minimum lot width. We would build the product that we're building over in Mason's Bend, which I think is a good example of homes. Obviously, y'all can go see them. We've committed to no vinyl, and we've committed to architectural shingles. We've done the things that we've been asked to do, and so that's just a quick introduction. We've obviously can entertain any questions, and we'll go from there.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris.
And I've got boards here if we want to see things at a bigger scale, if we need
Sure.
to see them.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Jim Sexton, 132 Drake Hill Drive, Lexington, South Carolina.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hi.
Thank you, Council. My name's Jim Sexton. My wife Shirley is the trustee for one of the parcels in here. We're both natives of Indian Land and Fort Mill. The property in question here is 40 acres of about 150 acres. It was bought nearly 90 years ago by my wife's grandfather. This portion of it is held in trust by the siblings that are remaining down in here. It is currently within the county. It is not within the town of Fort Mill, thus the reason for our request for annexation. So it differs a little bit from what the county has in terms of their norms for property and the way that it's to be managed. Growth is inevitable, or at least almost, and progress is inevitable. In time, what we've seen is we used to could walk all the way from this property all the way to the river, and it was wooded and all that. We have neighborhoods all around us, but yet we're in the county and we're different. We'd like to be in the city. The owners were approached by different developers to build other things, higher density units, et cetera, in different times. They were each turned away. Chris and his group came along and they had a different idea. They also seemed to show a willingness to work with the town of Fort Mill so that the premier town of Fort Mill, as the Planning Commission refers to it, is maintained. That's the reason for the request for annexation, to bring it in compliance with what the city and the community wants, and the zoning change. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesse Keller, 8909 Herbert Lane, Waxhaw.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I am Jessie Keller. I am the broker representing the land sellers for this property. And I wanted to just take a few moments and touch on benefits and the wins. Why is this a win for Fort Mill? As you heard Mr. Robusto say earlier, there's going to be 5 acres that is dedicated to the town to use as they see. So maybe it's a dog park, maybe it's a splash park, maybe it's trails. You all are looking at trails right now and how can that benefit. This is a growing community and people always are wanting to get outside. So I see that as a win. Part of J.W. Wilson would be paved and brought into DOT standards. If you go down that road currently, it's dirt, it's got a lot of potholes, it's uneven, it's got blind spots. So it is a hazard for emergency responders that need to get back there. So bringing this up to code, and this is not at any expense to anyone except the developer, is definitely a win. The roads within the new development would be maintained by the HOA and not the town. So this is also not an expense to the town and also a win. The developer is proposing to bring in sidewalks along J.W. Wilson, which currently don't exist, and then also sidewalks within the development. As you heard him say, this would allow the children ease of access so they're not walking along main roads between schools. So this is also a win for the community. In my capacity, in my career as a broker, I see every day people relocating to the area. I quickly kind of looked at statistics, and between 2020 and 2021, there were about 2,736 new residents that came to this area, just Fort Mill, not looking at the bigger surrounding York County or even Charlotte Metro. It's not going to stop, and that was COVID time, so I suspect we're going to continue to see people come. And one big thing that I see is affordable housing. Is there affordable housing? We have to have places for people to live. The proposal is a very affordable housing proposal for people to come and be great residents that are contributing to your tax base. If these houses are built, I would estimate that you would probably receive about $500,000 annually in a tax base from property taxes off this community alone. So that combined with impact fees, things like that, you're contributing to your schools and growing the community. I'd also like to say that currently the land, is, as you heard Mr. Sexton say, is in the county and it's used for things without the owner's permission, things like hunting and dumping and so forth. So this would be an improvement on the land that's abutting to residents' property and cleaning it up so you no longer have hunting, dumping, squatting, things like that going on in that property. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had one quick question for
Sure.
you. I attended that planning commission meeting. I think it was about an hour-long meeting, a lot of discussion, and you mentioned affordable housing. I think the price point for that was between $590,000 and $690,000.
Correct.
Just that being, I didn't want that to be, feel like that was kind of mislabeled as affordable housing.
Yes, and actually I looked this morning and pulled what is available currently for new construction in Fort Mill. Today, in our MLS, there are 18 homes available for sale, 18 homes. They range between $455,000 and $1.8 million. So to be right in the $500,000 and $600,000 really is affordable housing. It sounds crazy to all of us, but because of inflation over the last few years, that is what prices start to come in. I mean, $455,000 is the cheapest you could buy a new single-family residence in Fort Mill today.
I would debate that as being affordable housing, but thanks for the answer. I
Sure.
appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Jeff Neely, 528 Canyon Trail. Hi, Jeff.
All right, public speaking is not my wheelhouse, okay? So y'all just have to bear with me till I can get it all out.
You're among friends.
All right. But Mayor,
Yes.
council members, thank you for the opportunity. My name's Jeff Neely. My wife Julie and I established our home at 528 Canyon Trail about 29 years ago. Julie's dad, Olin Wilson, blessed us with the property. Olin took such pride in the piece of living on the Wilson family land. As a result, we have been able to raise our family in peace without the intrusion of the city. Unfortunately, now the city is trying to invade our private land and the peace we have enjoyed for 29 years. According to the present plan, there are 80 homes now headed our way. We choose to live outside the city limits. J.W. Wilson Road to Canyon Trail, living outside the town of Canyon Trail was a choice we made for a way of living. This annexation and rezoning isn't a choice, it's being forced on all the families and for almighty dollar, as it seems. The individuals proposing this land and offering money are not families who have their homes invaded by the traffic, people staring into their windows at night because of the density factor, loud neighbors, high taxes, intrusion on the privacy, wildlife loses a place to go. What's happening to the wildlife? I haven't heard anybody mention that. And most people just don't live here who are proposing this. Now, I am, as you can tell, against it. All right, Fort Mill is growing extremely fast, which can be appreciated. But why does it have to be crammed down our throats? Housing market has slowed to a possible impending crash, and the infrastructure is busting at the seams. So why is this not being looked at or closer improved? Sadly, the almighty dollar is what drives society. As a result, Fort Mill is turned out to be no longer that quaint little town where you go to raise your family. Instead, Fort Mill has become the saddlebag of Charlotte, North Carolina. When will it be enough? When will every piece of land and trees and grassy fields stop being sold off to those who don't even live here, but instead want to fill their bank accounts with dollar signs? Julie's dad, Olin Wilson, was proud to be from Fort Mill, South Carolina. But more than that, he loved J.W. Wilson Road, Canyon Trail, where he raised his family and grandchildren. Those who live here off the beaten path, the city, are here for a reason. We all chose to build our homes here So we ask respectively not to invade our homes, lives, families, and privacy with the annexation and the rezoning. Let's try to keep Olin's vision alive. And one thing I hadn't heard, I've heard how it's benefiting the town. I've heard how it's benefiting everyone else. But I have not heard how it's benefiting to the people that are next to this subdivision where it's going to be built. That's what I hadn't heard. Nothing. Not one thing. How it's going to benefit us and all the neighbors. Not one thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, we have no further folks signed in for public hearing. At this point in time, we will close the public hearing. And we will move into the business section. A first reading of an ordinance annexing York County tax map numbers 704-00000002 and 705-00000012 located at the intersection of J.W. Wilson Road and 537 Canyon Trail with approximately plus or minus 40.16 acres. Penelope, what would you like to share with us?
Sure. Since we have an audience here tonight, just to explain a little bit about the process. The process tonight is a public hearing, which we just had, for an annexation rezoning request. So before staff accepts an application for an annexation rezoning, the applicant has to submit a traffic impact analysis. So like Mr. Robusto said, you know, he contacted us probably a year ago and trying to do all his due diligence, but actually the last 8 months we've been working on the TIA, and that was completed, and Mr. Robusto and his team signed off on a mitigation agreement. And once we got that agreement done, that's when we are able to come through the process to present this in front of council. And this is where citizens that are in the area have an opportunity to come speak in front of you all for or against the annexation and rezoning. Now, you know, we do have this picture up here about a proposed subdivision, and the end game is first the annexation rezoning, and then if it does get approved, there's another process. That plan does not get doesn't get approved tonight. That would be another process. I just want people to understand that tonight we're just talking about the annexation, and if it was brought into the town, what the zoning would be. And so in front of us tonight is the request for the annexation with the R10. So the property is contiguous to the town limits and it could be eligible for annexation. However, the minimum lot size for R10 is 10,000 square feet, and the annexation zoning request for R10 does not meet the intent of our future land use map with the town of Fort Mill 2040 comprehensive plan that was passed back in 2020. At the town Fort Mill Planning Commission meeting, they met on October 18, and they made a recommendation to approve the annexation rezoning request for DRB Group submitted by Chris Robusto by a vote of 3-2. I had 2 members that were absent that night. So typically a planning commission is 7 members. Some of the planning commissioner members had concerns that the request for annexation rezoning was not in compliance with the future land use map with that comprehensive plan. The applicant, you know, is asking for smaller lots. He is stating that he would like to build a park and to give $100,000. But just for everybody to understand, in South Carolina, we don't have conditional zoning. So typically, if you have more than 25 acres, which this property does, if council decides, they can always use a different legal mechanism like a development agreement, and that's where you lock in, you know, certain agreements. I just wanted to explain that. But for tonight, this is just basically for the annexation. And so the site plan does show 2 access points. One access point would be from J.W. Wilson Road, where the applicant would make improvements to the county road to be able to create the main entrance if a subdivision ever gets approved. The second access point is proposed as a gated emergency access. And this second access point would be through the Trentwood Drive, which is the Waterside at Catawba community. At this time, those roads for the Waterside at Catawba subdivision are private roads. So the developer would have to get permission from Waterside to be able to use those roads as a connection for the access point. Again, it is the developer's responsibility to have these discussions, and Mr. Robusto is aware of that information when it comes. But tonight is just the benefit of either annexing or not annexing into the town of Fort Mill, these two properties.
That second row was deemed gated, right? Was that the
Yes,
intent?
that is proposed for emergency access point.
So there's one way in, one way out.
But the main entrance would be on J.W. Wilson.
That would have to be approved, though, by Waterside community. Those are private roads.
Yes.
So
Yes,
that's
so
not-
again,
To
from
make
a
a
fire
connection,
marshal
yeah.
perspective, when we look at, and this is, again, preliminary, because, just he was able to provide us a conceptual plan of the subdivision. The fire marshal looked at it, and he needs to have 2 access points into an 80-lot, single-family subdivision. And the proposal would be an emergency access. But again, coming into, the town has no control who accesses the roads today in Waterside at Catawba. It has to go through Lennar
So
or their HOA.
the comprehensive plan was adopted in 2020, right?
Yes, December 8th, 2020.
So that's not even quite 2 years old, and we're trying to go very much against that. I think that's what, 25,000 square foot lot?
Yes, so the R10 does not, you can go further down, and so
Right.
that's what they're proposing. They would like to see the R10 to have smaller lots to be able to do their proposed subdivision with the major roadway improvements that they would have to do for the subdivision.
So instead of a 25,000 square foot lot, it would be proposed as a 10,000 square foot lot, right?
Yes. So
And
the
Penelope?
25,000 is basically off of the land designation on the comp plan, the
right.
future land use.
Penelope, what
Yes,
is
ma'am.
the current rating on White's Road?
Okay, so I have that
Alphabetically
information,
speaking.
the TIA.
Yes,
That's what
thank
you're
you.
referring to. So believe it or not, with all the background that is going on that has been already approved with White's Road, and with putting just 80 single-family homes, the only thing for improvement is basically the eastbound of J.W. Wilson Road. The level of service drops while the other intersections do not drop. It doesn't make anything. And so one of the suggestions from the TIA, because of that eastbound, is to make the second access not emergency. Because if you made it as a full access, then it would help the delay that this development will decrease going eastbound on J.W. Wilson. So it's a little counterintuitive.
Right.
But that's what the TIA, that was the only issue of services going from a C to a D, was the change in eastbound on J.W. Wilson from White's Road.
And it went from a C to a D?
Yes.
And that's a 24-hour rating, not a like 6 to 8 or 4 to 6 type rating?
There's a, like in the morning peak and, in the morning and afternoon.
Right.
Yeah, that's not the one that gets proposed usually.
Right.
So was the TIA, didn't look at the impact on Parkway?
Yes.
And was Elizabeth, the growth that we know is already coming
Is
to
that taken
Elizabeth,
into
included
account?
into that?
Yeah.
I don't have that in front of me, but it's a 1 mile radius, so yes, it probably, I'm not 100% sure right now, I don't have it in front of me, but all the developments around the 1 mile area, and that's off of the Parkway, so I can look into that before second reading to double check, but she did take the 1 mile radius from this proposal with all the developments and future stuff that is going on. And so the other services really did not make an impact. It just stayed at a level that is not really great, but
What's the trip count on a residential home, 4 or 6 per household per day?
probably it's 10.
I think it's
Yeah, it had to be
Yeah,
at least 4,
yeah.
that's in and out in the mornings, 2 cars.
Yeah.
So
Homes
so
have
10.
more trips.
So it'd be 10 times 80 is what they're basing that TIA on.
What type of time frame are we looking at for the Parkway piece of this? I know it's part of Pennies for Progress discussions, and we know that that's a few years out. Can you give us some time frame on that?
I think in the next couple of years, but the issue is this is more on White's Road. So this TIA, it was really the only issue they had was the J.W. Wilson dumping into White's on going eastbound. That was.
But that traffic's got to go somewhere.
Yeah,
I understand exactly what you're saying. After 10 years on the planning commission, I understand that. But that traffic hits the Parkway.
They're either going left or right on the Parkway.
Right. Pennies 4 stops at U.S. Foods. It doesn't even go over that far.
Yeah, because of the bridge and not funding for this type.
It was undersized the day
So
it
with
opened.
Elizabeth that's coming in, they're making improvements to that area, working with the Pennies for Progress. But like Mr. Wolf said, and Mr. Booty, it stops right there.
Yeah.
Stops way prior to where
Yes.
this would have
Yes,
impact.
before the bridge of U.S. Foods.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go. I know what's on the table is just annexation or no, but always look at what's the impact to any development to the surrounding neighborhood and what's the benefit to the town. And obviously that whole area used to be rural, but there's still some larger lots and more rural area around that. So 5 Acre Park. You mentioned y'all built Mason's Bend, or you were involved in that, which I thought was one of the nicer design because you didn't you left the topo in, you didn't remove all the trees, so that was an exception to the rule, most of them. But on this one, we're just looking at a very small part of it. But there again, what's the benefit to the town? What's the benefit to the neighbors? I'm not sure I really see that so far. We're in phase 1 of about 10 things going forward. Right. But there's I think you may have trouble getting access to a private road in an adjacent neighborhood also.
Yeah, there's been a lot of concern about connectivity over the years between neighborhoods. I live in White Grove, and everybody lost their mind when Nims Village connected back to us with a walking trail. I thought I was going to have to move, and we didn't even know. So anyway, but I do know that throughout the years that I've been on there, that has been discussed heavily about driving through neighborhoods to get to schools or get to where you need to go. That's just my 1 cent for what it's worth.
I believe we've been approached previously on this same piece of property, have we not?
We have. We have many times. Since I've been here almost 4 years, we have. That's why staff, highly, recommended not to move forward, but everybody has the right to petition for their application to annex into the town. And also, I would be remiss not to mention, I did receive about 5 emails, 3 emails from citizens that were concerned about this annexation. One citizen that lives off of there just wanted contact information from Mr. Chris Robusto, and I have them all here. I think so. And I believe Mr. Neely's here tonight. That was the.
So the emails you got, were they more concerned, like you said, more for contact, or were they, adamantly against it? What was kind of the theme? I know you basically said what it was.
Well, I had one from Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins as homeowners in Waterside. They were in the Catawba. They moved. They didn't like the beautiful woods would disappear. Obviously, it is a private property, so I did explain to them, that's part of the petition. They were concerned about cutting down trees and wildlife. That was one. Another one, Christina Patton, again, just losing the small town feel, of annexing more property. And again, in the last 6 years, she's seen such extreme growth. Again, it was just opinions about.
That's good feedback.
Growth.
People that took the time to pen a letter or to be here tonight. A lot of respect for that.
Okay, the question for tonight is annexation. We're going to need, as we've already held a public hearing, this is a first reading, and it is requiring a vote. So I'm going to need a motion.
I make a motion to deny new business item number 3.
I have a
A second.
motion and a second. All those in favor of denying the annexation motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. We will now move to new business item number 4. Consideration to award contract for renovation of Walter Y. Elijah Park Playground. Davy Broom.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The playground at Walter Y. Elijah Park has been a popular destination for families for a couple of decades now. Playground equipment has been mildly renovated over the years. Town council, town staff recognize the needs or the need to renovate this heavily used playground. The playground renovation was placed in the 2021-2022 fiscal budget.
You want to hold on for a second?
Sure.
We have mass
That's what I was expecting to begin with. They saw my name pop up on the next part of the agenda, and mass exodus.
They should bring good chairs.
Yeah. You guys okay back there? Your knees getting tired, I'm sorry. Thank you for your patience. All righty then. Okay, Davey, you want to start again?
I'll start again.
Thank you.
So, Mayor and Council, again, the playground at Walter Y. Elijah Park has been a popular destination for families for a couple of decades now. The playground equipment has been mildly renovated over the years. Town council and staff recognize the need to renovate this heavily used park, or playground, excuse me. The playground renovation itself was placed in the 2021-22 fiscal budget. Staff began the process of procuring the project in early 2022. The objective of the project was to have playground vendors design, remove, and build a playground. We wanted the design to be creative, fill it with as many play elements as possible, with a heavy emphasis on swings, slides, and climbing playground equipment. We wanted rubberized false surface rather than wood chips. We wanted the playground equipment to be in neutral colors and green so that the playground blended into the natural look of Walter Y. Elijah Park. We asked for some ADA elements to be incorporated into the design, shade structures and features, as well as new benches, and also equipment that could be easily cared for and maintained. The request for proposal was completed, but project was not started. Again, the project was affected by most everything that was affected over the past year by scheduling and supply line issues. Then we placed the project into the capital projects fund for the 2022-2023 fiscal budget. Staff's requesting now to move forward with this project at this time in order for the timeline of the demolition, construction, ordering, receiving of the goods to take place over the winter months. I'd like to speak a little bit about the process of the request for proposals. The request for proposals were issued in late March of 2022. Staff required a mandatory pre-proposal meeting, and it was issued for April 14th of 2022 with interested vendors, playground vendors. Staff wanted the vendors to view the site in expectation of a more accurate design and bid. Based on that meeting, the information that came from it, an addendum was issued for a later opening date of the RFP to May 9th rather than April 28th. That's due to, well, the feedback that we received from the vendors was they weren't sure they would be able to have enough time between April 14th and April 28th to determine if they could get the equipment on time, and if the pricing of that equipment. It was so far behind. So that's why we extended that timeline for them. And so once we extended that, we had the public bid opening for those proposals. We received we had 5 playground vendors provide proposals. The way the proposals were evaluated, staff utilized a weighted evaluation system. We took a 5-person committee made up of staff from administration, Parks and Recreation, Fire, and Public Works sat on that committee. I represented the administration portion of that committee. And so prior to the evaluation, the committee met with the procurement manager to discuss the weighted evaluation system so that everyone had a clear understanding of what they should be looking for in the proposals. Once that was completed, each proposal was then graded individually, separately, by the committee members, and then their final tally turned in to the procurement manager. The results of the evaluation concluded that Cunningham Recreation Game Time, that's another name for their company, had provided the most dynamic proposal. The renderings that you see on the screens are the renderings that were provided to us, had many of the playground elements that we were looking for. Again, the bordering, the type of flooring, rather than have the wood chips, this is the rubberized fall flooring. Again, there's an abundance of swings, slides, and climbing apparatuses. And again, within that, there was also incorporated in that inclusive elements, playground elements, that is.
That's good.
And it's proposed to be placed on the same site as the current playground. And the reason for that is it works really well. It's close to ADA parking. It's easier to get the area into ADA compliance. So we would, again, if this is something council wants staff to move forward with, the process would be for us to, place an order for the equipment, which is about a 6-week turnaround from what we understand at this time. And, then the demolition would begin, which would be several weeks, and then once the equipment comes in, it would be setting and building the playground itself. The flooring may take the longest to complete because they have to have the temperatures just right. Anything has to be above 42 degrees consistently for that to cure. So if we were able to place the order, move forward with this now, the projected timeline of completion would be around the end of March, early April. That would get us through the winter months when playground's still used typically, but not to the level that it's used during the spring, summer, and fall. But it would get us right in there at that spring timeline for families to be able to enjoy the new playground itself. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions you may have on the project.
I'm assuming that schedule would not impede any event that we have planned for the amphitheater?
What's the first event there?
March 25th.
So it would be it'd be pretty close to it.
Okay, I would, just from safety perspective, I don't like construction on the same site we're hosting a number of people, so I would want to pay close attention, and weather conditions that time of year often present challenges for construction. So I would I'd at least like for us to build in some reference of time that we're not inviting people to the park, specifically large crowd, and thus have ongoing construction.
Yes, Mayor, and I imagine it would be, this would have to be.
I was saying, yeah, I actually have a different answer to the question. I was going to go, is it going to be fenced in during the construction
Yes,
period?
it would be fenced in, a construction fencing with access points just for the,
And I have a maintenance question.
okay?
Where the swings are positioned, you say this floor is going to be poured. What
Yes.
kind of maintenance will be required once those areas where the swing, where people drag their feet as they wear it out? Replacing those areas?
That's a very good question. We have this same flooring in multiple playgrounds that we already have and have been using for many years, and we've not
Yeah, let's
experienced
just
any
say it
wearing.
lasts longer than the dirt.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
It's pretty durable stuff, yeah.
I have also
It's
saw
real
this
good
where
stuff.
Yeah.
where it grooves in it and then it starts puddling water.
Yeah.
That was my only concern.
It's incredible how much better that is than just the dirt, because we were at a playground in Blowing Rock a couple of weekends ago with my grandchildren. It's amazing.
Right.
The ability for it to absorb, an elbow, a knee, or whatever.
I imagine there's, with any type of equipment and material, there's going to be some form of upkeep over the years. We've just not experienced any issues with that type of
Just being from a maintenance
material.
background.
I'm sorry, what?
Being from a maintenance background.
Yeah, there's always something that's going to break,
Yeah.
but that's something we would have to address at that time. But I imagine we get several years of
I was
use.
gonna say, Dave, now just to clarify, this is just gonna be in the same footprint as the existing? It's
Yes.
just replacing everything in the existing, correct?
That's correct.
So ask you a little different. So is it more or less than the existing equipment? Is it just a replacement of what we got, or is it more stations?
It's basically the same footprint. There could be plus or minus. It could be a little bit larger than the current footprint, or just smaller. But that's why we met with them on site to show them what the footprint was and said, we want to maximize this area. And so that was part of the.
Yeah, how many
So-
children it can host.
That's the separate, the same way to ask the same question.
Yeah.
So, or is there any consideration of equipment, especially for ADA access in any of this, or is
Yes,
this?
they
It
mentioned
looks
that.
like they are, according to the
Okay.
pictures.
Yeah.
And then, what is the projected target age group that this is developed upon?
Good Lord.
Well, I mean, there's kids.
That's the
there's stuff-
adults out there all the time.
Well, but I also want to make sure that there's a lot of young kids out there, so there is equipment that's designed more for you.
The equipment, yes, is designed for younger children, but I do believe we have one ADA or all-inclusive element in the swings it goes up to the age of 12.
Okay.
So
That was
What
two.
about the existing equipment that's there? Anything to be sold, reused, moved?
well, we recently this year just replaced one of the sliding boards.
Right.
So yes, we're going to keep that one and use it elsewhere. Change it out with another one. But outside of that swing set, everything else is pretty much worn out. Yeah.
What do they judge the lifetime of this type of equipment? Is it?
Dog years. And dog years.
No, I'm just saying, is it like 20, they have and obviously there's gonna be some type of warranty on it, but is it the lifetime 20 years? Should be replaced every 15 years?
I think it's closer to the 20-plus year time
I
frame.
agree.
Yeah.
It's called limited lifetime.
No, I'm just curious because, there's certain things that wear out faster than others. And
Kids are destructive. So.
With that rubber flooring, what kind of warranty does that come with a warranty? Kind of like the courts we had, we discussed a couple months ago?
It comes with a warranty, but right now I could not tell you if it's 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. I'd have to look into that one.
I'm surprised the equipment that's there has lasted as long as it has. For those of you that were here when the park was first built, there were wonderful exercise stations all around the trail. And it didn't take the public but a couple of years to tear those down. I mean, absolutely destroy them with vandalism. And the playground equipment, again, I go by there 50 times a day, and there are adults all over, all the small children stuff all the time. So I'm shocked it's lasted as long as it has, and the replacement is long overdue. because it is a draw for families.
It's used a
and
lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
Kids. It's a wonderful, no-cost alternative
more since you need
before
parking.
nap time when you need to wear them out. It is a perfect example of where to go.
Yeah.
So I'm excited because there's nothing more irritating than having to see a yellow tape pull because something's broken at a child's playground. So for safety reasons, I'm very excited to see us finally take this step forward.
And time is of essence, because obviously spring will be here before we know it. So I think the timeline would be great if we could pull that off.
Is this a turnkey company RFQ where they're going to be handling everything for us?
Yes.
From grading and,
Absolutely. It's the design, design, remove, and build.
okay. And I know we've talked before in our Parks and Rec Committee meetings, which we were not included on this meeting, and I'm very disappointed, that safety was a big key concern in having sunshades over this. I know the proposal you're bringing to us is more of just an umbrella. One of the complaints that we do hear is how hot the equipment is and, trying to protect it from the hot summer heat. Why did we look at a design or not express that to the
Can I answer that?
bidders?
Certainly.
Okay, some of the dilemma is in not putting a site interference on that park, which we committed to not put picnic shelters and things that would give a sightline interruption to the natural area of the park. These are sunshades that are approved and are used in schools as well. So you say umbrella, I say sunshade, it's all the same. This is a project, and I understand the concern that it didn't run through the committee, but the committee, we already have had this in our budget for a number of years. So it's not something that's a new project. It's just the completion of and the approval of the funding to be spent on this. So it isn't something that's to be reconfigured in a committee.
Okay.
And it's already, it's included in the budget.
It is.
It's carryover.
I
from
understand.
last year's
Again.
We
budget.
just, depending on the project, we have some.
I hear what
committees.
you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea that it was out for a bid, and I'm sorry, being the chair, I thought I would know, but I had no idea that we were at this point, didn't know it was going to be brought before us, and I thought that was the purpose of the committees, was to help be a filter to get the information and make sure what's being brought to council is what council is working for. Yes, we knew a playground had been approved for equipment, and we've known the need for it, we've known of delays, but we've not known of the process and been involved with it, to ask some of these questions ahead of time to make sure they're covered.
And Ms. Cook,
And we've been told kind of take a time out on Parks and Rec stuff until we get our facilities meeting done, information, and that's.
But we did
This
approve
was
the
in the
budget and it was in
pipeline.
the
We
budget.
approved the dollars,
Right.
absolutely,
So, I mean,
absolutely, but we didn't,
The amount that was earmarked for it in the budget?
Is this within that constraint, is what he's getting ready to ask?
there has been a slight increase based on the time, the cost for the material and equipment from early 2022 or April, May timeframe to now. There has been a $15,092.24 increase. So that would be
the steel side of it.
That's how much my groceries went up in that time.
That's just two of you.
But I will say, Ms. Cook, answer your question. I think the intent was, when we were going through this process the first time, was to bring this to council once we got through the process, just to get some, a review, a discussion going. But during that time, we also realized we weren't going to be able to pull this off in the 2021, 2022 budget. So that's why it never materialized to bring to council. It's just only recently, because of the new budget, it's in capital projects, started looking at really when's the best time to do this project. And there is no good time, but the best of the four seasons is probably the winter. And if we had brought it within the last couple of weeks or last few weeks, it would have been very difficult to be able to move through the process. So there was no, intent on my part to go around the committee at all. It was just something that was in the budget, and we felt like we were just needed to move on through with.
I think after this one, they all should run through the committee.
Well, again, if
Because
we
we've
had
already
time
talked.
for staff committee to be pulled together, we could have joined that in the evaluation. At this point, we had, how many people submit? 5 submit? And Parks and Rec Committee didn't have a vote on the selection.
You wouldn't have a vote.
Well, not a
Committees
vote, I'm
can't
sorry.
vote.
Not
Yeah.
a vote, but an
Yeah.
opinion.
Recommendation.
Yeah. Committees can't vote.
Recommendation, we do
Yeah.
So
recommend.
this is a move to approve move forward on this item?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are we ready?
Are you?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I just, can I offer just one thing? Looking at it, based off the footprint of where it's at now, it's one of the first things you see when you come into the town. When I see this, I'm underwhelmed. I hate to say that. If you drove by the old one and you drive by this one a couple years from now, it doesn't look much different to me personally. I figure if we're gonna do it right and make it grander, maybe is the right word. That's all.
I noticed with the addition of a lot more swings on this one, was that something that we'd heard complaints or concerns that there weren't enough swings, and what type of swings will we have? Because I know we talked about some of the ones that were put at Banks Athletic with ADA and different abilities to be able to use these swings.
That's correct. And the majority of the swings will be standard swing sets. There will be some infant swing sets included in this, as well as ADA swing sets.
I would like to, I'll follow up on Mr. Garrison's. Yeah, I think the equipment there is broken, and there's nothing worse, I think, as the mayor's mentioned, you ride by and you see yellow tape, especially when you see people using the equipment that's still taped off, which has concerns. So I personally think we should move forward on this, but it doesn't mean that this should be the one and only time we look at that park to add equipment. And that's kind of why I was asking in the beginning, is this kind of just a replacement, or is this looking like we're adding to it? I know this is an older project, but it doesn't mean that we can't reevaluate this going forward to add additional equipment. I think as the town grows, and I've mentioned in other settings that I think I'd like to see additional parks, maybe some parks that don't have equipment, just green space and walking trails and things. But that park is, I drive by there probably as many times as the mayor does every day, and it's very busy. And it's a great setting, and it's also a focal point of the town. So having broken equipment out there, and somebody's going to get hurt. So I personally think we should move forward on this since we've got everything teed up. But I think we might want to look at additional equipment in the future.
And I think given Lisa's reference to the facility study, I would like to refer to the Parks and Recreation Committee that they look upon, does it need to be larger there, or do we need to make larger at other locations? Because I do think this is such a multi-purpose site with the amphitheater and the other activities that occur there. I literally had a gentleman approach me 3 years ago and wanted to put Carowinds South on the park. I mean, literally, it was one of the most amusing proposals I've seen. That is not what our Central Park was ever intended to be, and I believe that the grantors of that park would balk at too much in the park because they want it to be natural. But I agree in concept that park settings going forward should be larger. I think with our population where it is, like the Banks Athletic Park it's great, but it is a little small when you count the number of pieces of equipment. And I know that we have to plan for that moving forward, so I'd refer that to the committee to try to size up where would be appropriate and what type of equipment would be appropriate.
Well, the Spratt Street Park gets a lot of activity. I mean, just that little small area right there on the corner.
Millstone, yeah.
It gets a lot of activity, and it's a very small, but it's a trailhead to get into the walking and to get to the park. So it's a good problem to have, but like I said, this is not the one and done.
So you mentioned the approval process for we have to get approval from the close family on this. Have we done that already, our agreement?
Yes.
And they have already reviewed?
They've already reviewed it and approved it for their part.
Okay. And who will be the project manager for this?
That's a good question. Yes, we will have to assign the project manager for this, but it'll either more than likely be myself or Chris
Pettit?
Pettit.
Okay. I didn't think Moody had time, so.
Too busy
Got another-
being a CN2 anchor man
Yeah.
over there.
I just hold his microphone full.
All right. So, a lot of discussion, very beneficial discussion. Do I have a motion, however, on this particular
Make a motion to move forward to approve
Second.
business item number 4?
number 4.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Nay.
We have 2 nays. That would be Mr. Garrison and Ms. Cook. Thank you. Information discussion, item number 1, capital projects update.
All right. All right, I just want to take a few minutes to provide an update on a few capital projects. The YMCA at the complex, the tennis facility that's located on their property, our property, where the YMCA is located. The tennis facility, again, will full construction of 4 existing tennis courts with 2 new constructed tennis courts and 8 pickleball courts, as well as a restroom facility with storage room and office space in that facility. What you see on the overhead here is it's just the overhead of the park itself. Where the half court is located, half tennis court, that is no longer there. It's been removed. During the construction portion of that site, it was found that the soil was substandard and was holding some debris from previous years. So all of that had to be taken out and new soil brought in. And what you see there is a more recent photo of the site itself. Initial thought by me, I'll admit it, was that when we went through this process, it would be easier to put the tennis courts in first and then come back at a later, get them in before this warm season leaves us, and then come in the wintertime and build the restroom facility over the winter. This is
Is there a big butt coming up there?
There is
Well, I'm not saying,
but we're dealing with 3 different groups here. The project for the restroom facility is a construction group, Southern Builders of York County. They're over that portion of the project. Court 1 is the vendor that will be installing the tennis courts. And then Musco Lighting is providing the lighting for the tennis courts. All this is done in order to save money. We put the courts out for bid a few years ago. Court 1 held to their pricing. Musco Lighting is on state contract, so we saved money there. And then the Southern Builders won the bid for the overall project and construction of the restroom facility. After meeting with all of the entities at one time, talking through the project, having the project manager over this, which I'm overseeing the project, but I'm working with ESP Associates to actually be the project manager for the administration of it. Pulled all the entities together, had conversations. What was found was that the construction footprint of the restroom facility impedes on on this site where the 2 new tennis courts are going to be installed. So essentially, you don't want to put the new courts down and then have the construction equipment driving over it. So it's flipped in the timeline for the construction. They're moving forward right now, putting the restroom facility in. Court 1, we've got on their schedule to come in. We're going to be the first ones that they pour. They don't start pouring tennis courts until early April, which means they would construct them during the April timeline.
once they're constructed and the asphalt surfaces are poured, then it needs essentially about a 30-day curing period. Again, the weather is dependent upon what good weather. So we're looking at a late May, early June timeframe for the opening of the tennis courts themselves. And at the same time, the restroom facility will be completed. So the entire project should be completed around the May timeframe. We don't anticipate it going into June, but we think it's going to be sometime in the May time period when it is open and ready to be utilized. In the meantime, the current courts are still open to be used by the public. We're not closing them. There will be some construction fencing going around the site so that we can keep the public safe while they're out there enjoying the tennis courts. And then once the spring gets here and the time frame gets to where they can actually start on the courts, staff will be communicating that to the public that the courts will be shut down, providing a timeline for that, as much communication as possible, so that we can move through that process as safely as possible and efficiently as possible.
So are the contracts, can we put a date on there, a not to exceed date? I mean, contingency, you always put, for, can't control weather, but I do know that pickleball has got to get out there, because it's like, it's a huge question. Well, when does I had this Sunday, there's a lot of excitement about it. The bathroom's probably second to the pickleball, and then it'd be nice to get the tennis courts fixed. But the pickleball is there's a lot of enthusiasm over that, because there's none. They're having to find places to play, and they were already some questions about could we put additional pickleball courts in. It's like, there again, got to walk before we run. Let's get because they're unsafe. Some of those courts are unsafe now.
That's true.
So we just need. So I think that's great, but I think we need to. They're going to move forward on getting it done and as quickly as possible.
So with that extended timeline, is there any weather contingencies built in there, or is it's a tight schedule as it is, and any wet weather is going to push that date back even further?
Well, those are the dates that I've been provided by the contractors at this time.
They're always optimistic.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying. Let's put them to a hold them, and then if it's over 30 days, usually there's some kind of penalty for it.
Something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, just so it doesn't. Well,
We're probably too late for that.
Yeah,
but-
so I'm saying,
Yeah, once you've got a contract,
Yeah,
it's
you're-
hard to go back and revisit, but I don't disagree with having penalties and contracts
Put some
based
bookends in
on
there.
the way it is now.
We've had some experience working with Southern Builders of York County. They've been very good to work with, done really neat work for us. I don't anticipate there's going to be too much trouble, because all indications are they're ready to get in and get their work completed and move out and get out of the way.
Yeah, their time's money too.
oh, absolutely.
I'm more concerned the weather's going to really be a concern
always an issue with
the
construction,
tennis courts
The
themselves.
courts, because of the heat needed to
Right.
set them.
Yeah, but you always run into stuff like bad dirt. I mean, it's all every time you start any project, there's always something. It's usually the people that do power cause you problems.
Davey, you mentioned construction fencing going up. We don't have it up at this point.
Right now, there's signage up out there. Just the only thing that's being worked on right now is this site, and I think I've been out there the last couple of days that I was at work, and I believe they've had to slow temporarily because Duke Energy is scheduled to come in. I don't think you can see it on this picture, but there's some underground primary lines that actually, there was a pad mount transformer behind the old half-court wall.
Is that what that picture? I was trying to figure that view. Is that where the old transformer where the half court was?
Yes, that's exactly where it was
Okay.
located. And so there's wires still out of the ground right now that are not hot.
They're
But Duke Energy's got to come in and relocate those wires to the new pad mount transformer site. And we're being told they have to be completed with that project by the 18th of November. So I don't think they can do anything else on this site until Duke gets those power lines connected and underground and off the
Today's
site.
14th. We're talking 4 days.
Yeah.
Have we heard from them that they're imminent?
I heard from the Duke engineer
late last week.
If they're not talking to us by Wednesday, let's call them, because we waited before. Okay, please.
Stay on that.
Pretty please. Thank you.
And when you talk about the or information signs that are out there, did we put one of what's coming so that people could see progress and what to expect as they're out there looking at the tennis courts and knowing that, yeah, rendering of it and timeline?
We've not yet, but we can install that.
Okay, yeah, we had talked about it before our meeting. Okay.
Yep.
And what time frame do you think we could assign to that?
I would say that would be within the next 2 weeks. If we get it ordered the next day or two, then it turnaround sometimes is a couple days, sometimes it's a week.
Got holidays coming, so that would be an aggressive push if you can get it out before Thanksgiving, you know.
By end of the month? I just,
yeah.
Have you got a render, is there something together already that would show, or do you have
had the
to?
renderings that we approved.
We've got some renderings we can send to the screen shop.
Yeah.
I just think if we're talking about how to communicate with people on the project and what's coming, the people that are currently using the facilities are probably the key ones you want to know. Absolutely. Saw it on some projects in Charleston this weekend, but it was great to have that information right there. And even a link or a reference to our website if they want more information.
Yeah, we'll do the same that we did for the amphitheater project.
A couple ACM signs would do good for against the weather elements for 6 months, 7 months.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to a recent completion of a project, a capital project, was the renovations of the restrooms for the men's and women's locker room at the YMCA. I'd like to go through some slides and show you some before pictures and after pictures. Of course, this one's before. You can see these.
Those look familiar.
These facilities were cleaned daily.
No, that's the men's restroom. That's the men's bathroom. Add a little humor.
These facilities were cleaned daily, but it was just wear and tear over the years, just worn. And so the YMCA staff approached the town and asked about having these renovated. This is part of our agreement of the ownership of the building itself. So the town contracted, procured this out to be renovated, and this is an after photo of the same shower stall. You can see that new equipment was added, the new flooring, surface, walls, paint. And then the last photo is of another stall. Everything is brand new. We've received very positive feedback from the YMCA staff and members out there. So we're very proud that this project has been completed. Again, the overall cost for the project was $58,310.72. That was the approved amount by town council. Approved the bid of $54,000 and some change, but this includes state sales tax, so that's why the overall project come in at $58,310.72. Again, this is for both men's and women's restroom facilities back near the pool area.
That's the old pool area, though, not the aquatic
That's
center.
correct.
So, yes.
That's a good point.
Will the will the YMCA or the town be communicating to current YMCA members about this? Because I know some people may or may not have been using it or know about the transition as well. So they tend to send out a lot of newsletters. Are we communicating it in a way?
Yes, the YMCA staff communicated it pre-construction and post-construction. So they wanted to make sure that
And we met with them and discussed that. Want to make sure that their members were kept up to date on the project and timeline of the project. So that's why we're receiving so much positive feedback now, because it's completed and done very nicely.
Are we doing anything through our town website or posts to show the project complete and the before and after?
We've not typically, because it was for the YMCA and the members that use that, but we can certainly do that on through our communications.
Okay, I just was wondering, since it was a capital project, if it was listed on the website for all. Okay.
I think it looks great. It really does.
Maybe matches my island. Yeah.
Okay, moving to the next slide. This is the next project that staff is bringing to your attention that we need to have some heavy consideration on. The trees on the property, there are various species of trees that exist on the property that the town owns. You can tell by this photo, the town replaced several willow oak trees in the front parking lot in 2019 with American hornbeams. You can see the remaining willow oak that's in the front parking lot in this photo, as well as the new hornbeam tree that was planted. The remaining trees on the property, though, have not had a lot of maintenance addressed to them since we took over the ownership of the property. And they have an abundance of dead wood in them.
You have some danger trees.
Yeah. And if the next photo shows that, you can see these are photos of the trees in the back parking lot of the islands. There are also trees against the building itself, large willow oak trees that have dead wood in them. It's a liability concern with members. And anyone using tennis facility coming around to go to the restroom, they're walking under these trees. So it's important that we maintain these trees for safety purposes and for the health of the trees themselves. Staff did have the trees examined by an arborist, and the arborist has provided recommendations to increase the health of the trees. So, a plan is currently being designed with the objective to extend the life of the current trees. Very few of them are in the dying stage. The rest of them can just be through proper maintenance and I guess I can't think of a better term than nutrition. But a good program will extend the life of all of the trees on that property, and that's what we intend to do.
Are there any watering lines or any way to get those things watered with all the impervious around? Or are they just relying on rainwater?
There is not, unless we go, undertake a very expensive
project.
Right. We did on the new ones we planted.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So that was an interesting.
Right.
Program.
And so, Chris, if you can move on to the next photo. In a separate project other than the maintenance program of the trees, you can see the tennis courts in the background. We've addressed 2 pine trees that could cause a safety concern at any time. This particular tree is leaning over the parking lot. The next photo shows the tennis, you can see the tennis courts there. The pine tree is leaning toward where the new tennis courts are going to be, or the renovated courts are going to be added, or the courts are going to be renovated. These 2 trees we're looking to have removed and replaced with a species of hardwood tree. Again, through the agreement with Springs, we have contacted the representatives, asked them, told them our intention and why we think it needs to be done. They're in agreement, and they've give us approval to move forward with that. Again, as long as we replace them with a
hardwood species. The next photo is the third tree we're looking to remove. If you see the glass windows there, that is I recall it as the arts and crafts room. It's where the kiln was located. That courtyard has been there as long as I can remember, since '77. Don't know that that's the age of the tree, but I assume it is because the concrete was constructed around it. That tree, over the years, the root system has grown, and the ball of the root system has broken and raised the concrete area. That's one of the photos. The next photo shows, you can see the cracking and changing in elevation, causing tripping hazards. The next photo,
Dropping some leaves too, wasn't it?
you can see the wear and tear on that older portion of the patio. The YMCA management has asked that we look into this, if there's a way we could remove the tree and replace that patio. It doesn't necessarily, they don't say it has to be concrete. It could be some type of surface or grass, if you will. Children come in and out of those doors in their programs, and they're just concerned that with the tripping hazards, it poses a problem. They've also found recently that if you recall, the windows inside of the building, the movement of the concrete has shifted and caused some intrusion, or allows water, pushing water actually under the seals of those windows into that room. So it is something that we feel like we need to address, just to kind of clean that area up. So that's 3 trees that we feel like that we would need to remove and then do some maintenance on this area here itself. Now, we, again, open to any suggestions you would like to see in that courtyard. I think the YMCA is happy with anything we could do.
I'm not opposed to removing the tree. I would like to see discussions either through the committee, through you, through the Y, about the 2 doors. Because when we initially were looking at the construction of the new pool and the old pool, there were a lot of discussions about the multiplicity of doors and the fact that the Y has certain practices. Mostly those doors are bolted closed. So I would like to, before we do anything and spend money on this courtyard, it's always been a wasted space other than just a tree. So I would talk to them first before we spend any money on replacing concrete, or determine what's the best use for that area, and do they really want those doors.
Is that door, you're talking about the doors in the kind of pass through right there? Yeah, 'cause you can't really bolt doors.
Yeah, you can if they're not a pathway for emergency services.
Because in Charlotte, you have to be able to exit doors. You can't close. You have to be able to go out them. You don't need to come in.
I don't mean bolted, I mean locked. You're not supposed to be able
you have
to
to have
go
a
in
fire
and out.
deadbolt.
Yeah, they have a policy that they have to be able to have the sight line for where people come in and where people exit, and they do comply with all of the emergency requirements. But I'm pretty certain those 2 doors and 2 others were unnecessary.
Gotcha.
And were a complication to their practice.
And Mayor, I just want to clarify, those 2 doors that are in this photo are not part of the project.
Okay.
And it's the door I was speaking of is the door actually to the left.
That goes into the old arts and crafts and dance studio.
That's where they have a daycare
But I'm just saying,
program.
before we pay for concrete
Yeah,
to do anything there, let's get an overall perspective on what works best.
Right.
Well, I'm a big advocate of trees, so obviously some of those trees look like they need some love, to put it bluntly. The pine trees probably need to come out regardless. They're just a safety hazard. They short roots. They'll fall over in a storm. So as long as there's not a net loss of trees, and preferably a net gain of trees, I think I would be in generally for it. Also, the correct type of tree to be planted, not just, Bradford Pierce was the tree for everybody planted forever. It's a terrible tree to plant. It's no benefit. It's not a native tree. So it should be something, there again, especially around the Greenway and Mrs. Close dedication and all she's done. she would want, hardy southern trees planted in there that are native to our environment, I think would be appropriate all the way around.
And that's a good point. When I was meeting with the arborist, that was discussed as well, and he complimented us on our selection of the trees in the front parking lot islands, the American hornbeam. He said they're a very sturdy tree, low maintenance. They grow somewhat tall, but more wide, and their root system, root ball system, is less intrusive than a typical maple or oak. So, if you're going to plant a tree around any type of concrete, we're not stuck on that one type of tree, but that's a good species to use in that situation.
I would say if there's any type of, or just in the overall conversation about this patio area, I think there were some ideas recently brought to us with a like a grid type system where grass can be planted in there.
From
and
the stormwater
still
people.
provides stability, still a good walkable surface, but it would let water pass through instead of being
Impervious.
That's a
runoff
very good point.
and creating problems.
And it'd be
somewhere
pretty
else.
too.
Yeah, it would look great.
It would be pretty. Okay.
So is the budget are these items included in our annual budget allowance for the complex?
They are.
Okay. So
Yes,
this
and
is,
capital project
Not
set.
yeah, not new, you're just giving us an update on this.
And the bathroom was on, last year's, was paid out of last year's.
Yeah, I remember the restroom, I just don't
I'm just kind of
remember,
following up on your
just don't
thought,
remember
yeah.
the tree discussion, so.
This is the first time we brought this to you. Quite honestly, when we were out there with the tennis courts, spending more time out there, it was more noticeable this year that the amount of dead wood in the trees.
Is this a decent time to plant those?
Yeah.
'Cause
Always
I mean,
in the
my
yes.
thoughts are, okay, but we got to do this. How soon can we get it done?
Fall, winter time frame is the best time.
Okay.
That's why you have an arborist. But I agree with you, but yeah, we should let the right people make the decision.
Well, I'm saying, is there?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Let's get it done. Okay.
Yeah, and that's and on here you see the projected completion date for the current projects is sometime in the winter. And the reason I say that it comes down to scheduling
Right.
and actually being able to the time to do the work. So I was told right off it's more likely going to be late 2022, very early 2023 before anything could even be started.
And around the back, you don't want to do anything until you finish construction, because you don't want to put a new tree in there and then have construction around it where other hazards can fall. But those I'd be glad to see those pine trees go,
Yeah,
because
they're not good for anything.
Good.
Good.
All right.
So what else you doing?
That's all I had for that.
All right, before we move into our executive session, I would like for each of the Boy Scouts to stand and tell us their name and their troop number and obviously what badge you're working on. Okay, please. All right.
I'll start. My name's Olivia. I go by Audie. I'm working on the Citizenship and Community Merit badge, and I'm from Troop 130.
Thank you. Thank you. Very well spoken.
My name is Vishnu, and I'm from Troop 130. I'm working for a second class and the Citizenship Merit badge.
Wonderful.
My name is Thomas. My troop is Troop 130, and I've been working on the chessman badge.
Awesome. All right.
Hi, my name is Zahan. I'm from Troop 130, and I'm working on the Citizenship and the Community Merit badge.
Well, we're thrilled that you joined us. I know this is about as fun as having to wash mom's dishes, but yeah, paint dry. But we're very happy to have you, and I think it's important that more folks your age understand how dry and complicated the government side of things can be. But we're very happy to have you, and I hope you get something out of being here. So thank you, and thank you for the Scout leaders that are here as well.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you for coordinating.
Thank you very much.
Any plans of going for the Eagle?
Yeah?
Yeah.
All righty.
Gotta set the goals big, that's
Do
for
it.
sure.
Do it. We'll be watching.
Appreciate you
All
guys.
right.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, please note that council may take action on executive session items listed on the agenda when they come back into public session. Have a good evening. Executive session, item number 1, receipt of legal advice relating to potential claims and ongoing legal matters. And executive session, item number 2, discussion incident to personnel matters pertaining to town manager annual review. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, thank you so much. We will return.
Let's make a motion, let's come back in from executive session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to return to regular session. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that no vote was taken in executive session. With that, we have no remaining items on tonight's agenda. We'll start with you, Ben. What's for the good of the whole?
Oh, totally not prepared for that.
Good.
Yeah. Just ready for the holidays. One of the things I was thinking about, the leaves, I've seen a lot, especially in our neighborhood, have been out on the street. I think it isn't protocol or isn't preference to be in the yard versus leaves be out in the street. Because I know coming through our neighborhood right now is
You ought to see mine.
pretty dicey.
Got down on the curve, Davy, blew his, no lie. They're this far out into the street and a clean sweep between the leaves and the curb.
Well, they're just going to end up in everybody else's yard.
Well, if I wouldn't get shot, I'd just take my leaf blower and go blow them.
I just want to blast through one of the big piles. But anyway, just
Don't do that.
to
People put stumps in them.
no,
Or cinder blocks or
for
something.
people to be reminded
Yeah.
that please keep the leaves in the yard because I know especially in our neighborhood, there's a lot of conversations about cars being out on the street.
Once they
along
get
the
wet, they're
curb.
dangerous for motorcycles.
Yes, they
Right. So
Wet grass too.
please keep them out of the street.
Maybe we could add something, have Sardelli add
We'll
a bullet flashing
Somebody
hand that reaches
put 'em in the
out.
street right there in the curve on Academy Street. So you had to go around.
That's my main thing. Sorry.
That's
for
the
being
gist of
ill-prepared,
yours.
So I apologize for that.
Mr. Garrison?
Just you following up on that. We talked about the trail plan earlier. The survey. If you haven't done the survey, it's a pretty extensive survey. Publicinput.com/Fort Mill Trail Plan. How about that? And it's a great survey. We need as much input as possible for that, and I'm excited to see where that's going to go. Trash pickup. I know we have ended that for the year. The official, what the town's doing. That doesn't mean you can't go out and still pick up trash as you see it. Please.
You mean litter?
Yes.
You mean litter?
Litter, yes.
Litter. We will always pick up trash.
We don't. It doesn't have to be a sanctioned event to go out there and clean up and take pride in your town. You know, this is all where we live. So it's getting cold. So pets, please. I hate seeing pets outside in the cold and everything. So if you're cold, they're cold. So just take care of your animals. Treat them like family. That's it.
Lisa?
Just a couple of questions for staff. To help me with the timing and hopefully some of other council, could we add a list of our current RFQs that are in process, approved and processed in the works timeline on our document pages where we keep up with some of the other items? Is that, I'm assuming we've got an Excel spreadsheet somewhere that has all of the projects that have been approved by budget and where we are in process. I know we've seen something like that in the past.
Yeah, so we have all of our actively out for bid items on the website, but you're talking about all of them budget-wise.
All compiled, yes, so that we can see as a budget what's coming in when the dates have changed to help keep up with it. Because I have a feeling it's going to get potentially even busier, depending on our facility studies and what come back from it. But I think it'll help, I know myself, to be able to see what's out there and not forget about projects. The other question I have is, what's our status on the redistricting map?
I have a meeting tomorrow afternoon. They submitted a draft to us in the last month. And just trying to work with them on getting a meeting. They had split up a couple of neighborhoods, which was our only ask of them, is to not split up neighborhoods. So meeting with them tomorrow afternoon to try and hammer out bringing those neighborhoods back into the same districts as, the rest of the neighborhoods. After that, we'll bring it to council for a public hearing and then a formal adoption process.
Okay, is there anything you need from council to help with that meeting tomorrow with?
Not at this time. We've, in the past, gotten the input from council in a couple of different times. And so tomorrow, it really honestly is just 3 or 4 different areas that they kind of split a street of one neighborhood. A part of Waterside is in District 1 and District 2. So just fixing a few things like that, minor things. But after that, we should have a good draft to bring to council and a public hearing.
Okay, and you anticipate a public hearing, 1 or 2 hearings on that?
It's 1 hearing, and it just depends on how fast they can turn around. They're working throughout the state on this. They acknowledge their deadline is to get it to us before filing for next elections, but we certainly, I think, are really close.
Yeah.
So I don't anticipate it taking that much time for them to make these fixes.
And will staff be working with the elections offices for voting precincts locations to have them at that time? How does that work? The elections reaches out to us, or, because I know there's been some changes over the last couple of years, Glen Rock is no longer one, so when it's redistricting happens, just wondering.
Yeah, typically that's handled all through the county and the elections office.
Perfect, awesome, thank you.
Ron?
I can't remember whether we discussed the fall festival or not, but I went down to it after I got off work last time, and I really enjoyed the way it was laid out and people being able to move around. One complaint, I went to our town website because my wife wanted the dates for the Christmas parade and Christmas tree lighting. And every time I went to events, the only thing I got was council agenda and council meeting times.
I'm not aware of that. We'll check on that.
I got so frustrated trying to find a date that, it was just aggravating.
Were you doing that through your phone, or was it on my computer?
I was on my phone and also on my iPad, just going to the website, Fort Mill, and brought it up, and it said events, and all it listed was us. So it was just kind of
verify
frustrating.
that it's working properly tomorrow.
And it might have been me, but it's all.
If you're having problems, somebody else is probably having problems too. So that's the.
Every time I put events in, it was us.
Mr. Wolf?
So a couple things. With the recent election session completed, I would ask all candidates, please pick up your campaign signs that are still scattered throughout town. And not just in the town, they're on the interstate, they're in places they never should have been put in the first place. But I think everyone's bent over backwards to make that a smooth transition, but they definitely need to be picked up. Also, with the cooler weather, I've noticed an increase in the golf cart traffic, and ask owners to please be careful using golf carts on public roads. This town and the state have guidelines on how to use them appropriately, and for usage and safe usage and requirements, you can go to the South Carolina Department of Public Safety, and there's people on roads that they shouldn't be on, roads too far from home and things like that. So main thing is we don't want there to be any accidents between vehicles and people on golf carts, because I've seen some young kids driving them, which should never have been.
And after dark.
And then also, it's hard to believe it's almost Thanksgiving and Christmas is going to be right around the corner. And, although life it's not without its challenges, I think we should all take time to reflect and practice thankfulness for our many blessings. Give thanks for our community that we live in and the quality of life we enjoy. Give thanks to all the veterans and first responders, and the mayor mentioned that in the beginning, of those who protect us and care for us in emergencies. And let's all work together to what we all have in common and not what divides us. And be safe and enjoy your times with your families. We kick off the holiday season in the town of Fort Mill. It's a great community, as we always say, and it's a wonderful time of the year. We should really, try to understand how blessed we really are.
And that we are. Thank you very much. I'm going to tag on to your signs. I believe our town timeframe that we offer expires tomorrow for those signs, those political signs to be picked up. Each of us that sit on this council have to run for office and understand the need for communicating your desire to be elected. However, I have yet in 18 years to sit through an election that there wasn't some contentious relationship in regards to signs. So we will, as a council, review the sign policies and determine are they adequate for our community, and if not, we will make adjustments accordingly. As we go through the process, the holidays are coming, but our work doesn't stop. I would like to compliment the utility folks, public works folks, because they're picking up of debris after that little windstorm that was Nicole that wasn't. But there was a lot of rain, and I'm very impressed with the diligence with which they go through our city streets and pick up limbs, leaves, and they do it very effectively. We need to keep those we had a presentation by our storm water folks not too long ago. Those drains are full. I mean, we got a lot of leaves falling, and those drains are full. Let's don't create problems. I know the nation is grappling with whether we'll continue with daylight savings time or not, but it is dark a lot now. So I'd like for everybody to be very careful. Chris, your point about golf carts is a valid one. Also, kids on scooters, kids at bus stops. Let's be safe out there. Let's do that. Veterans Day was, I would like to compliment the events staff because we had to make that last minute change because of the rain. I thought they did an admirable job, but it also brought to mind the need for us to have a community center that we can move an event inside. And that facility, the parking was great, the setup was good, the acoustics were difficult. I could hear myself talking, and that was really a problem. I don't know how y'all put up with it, but it was a problem. So I do think as our facility study comes in that, we've had some input to that study itself, but I don't know that anybody's ever sat down and said, Gwen, what do you think is really important on this list? And it's hard because I think everything's important, but I do think we own that now. It's been given to us. We've had some funding that we could have, put air conditioning in it or heat. I don't know. I just think that we really need to have soon. Are we still on track for that facility study shortly after the first of the year?
Well,
February, March?
Closer to 3 months into the 6 month. I think it's the February, March time frame we're talking about.
Okay, all right. Let us know if it delays.
I will.
Because I can't,
We need to move.
I can't see us waiting a lot longer because we're very tense.
We're anticipating. Anxious?
Yeah, we're very
Is there any
anxious.
way-
That's a good one.
Is there any way we can kind of get a brief update from them? Because the other concern I have is that we get so far along and then they come back to us
Then we're
and it's not what we want or anticipate or expect, because to Gwen's point, we only had a brief sticky note meeting in here.
We are due for an update, right? Because we're supposed to get multiple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to them tomorrow.
Yeah, there was a timeline on that. We ought to look. I can pull that up. We have that document.
And I do think, for me, I love Christmas. But Thanksgiving is, to me, just incredibly important that we look around us and be thankful for each other. How many people get the blessing to live in and work in a town like ours with the people that we get to work with? Right. Don't always agree. We pick at each other, we stamp our foot occasionally, but I wouldn't want to do this with other people. So thank you so much for your contribution, staff and council.
If I could just give one more little shameless shout out, my daughter and her new husband, Patrick, who were married almost a week and a half ago. So it was fun utilizing a lot of in-town vendors for catering and for the wedding dress and for flowers and things like that. So proud of them and what they're going to be. So
Shop
That's-
local.
That's good
That's a
hometown
good-
stuff, right?
Good mantra. Good mantra. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's great to see the turnout tonight. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot
Love
of times,
that.
a lot
Absolutely.
of times it's just
For or
you know,
against is
staff and a
fine.
few things.
Right.
Yeah,
Show it.
we appreciate the input. I wish a few more people would have spoke up, honestly.
Definitely agree with that.
But, yeah, even if they're just coming to watch, that's always nice.
Right.
With that, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Now, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay.
Don't
Thank you.
jump to it, everybody.
Thank you so much.